Today, we're going to dig into some of the common habits that can really get in the way of a deeper, richer understanding of the Bible. And for this, we're pulling some fantastic insights from Faith Womack's book, No More Boring Bible Study. So let's jump right in. So let's just start with a really direct question. Think about it. When you open up the Bible, what are you really looking for? Are you hoping for an answer to a specific problem you're facing? Or, and be honest, are you maybe just looking for yourself? And that question, it really gets to the heart of the first major hurdle a lot of us face, especially when we're starting out. What are we actually searching for in those pages? Well, according to our source, the single biggest mistake is treating the Bible like it's some kind of divine advice column, a spiritual vending machine for our immediate personal problems. And it's such an easy trap to fall into, right? Especially in our culture that's all about self-help and personal growth. It's not that the Bible doesn't have guidance, of course it does. But when that becomes our only focus, we end up shrinking this huge, epic story down to the size of our own lives. I mean, come on, we've all been there, haven't we? We're facing a big life decision, and we crack open the scriptures hoping for a lightning bolt, a clear sign telling us exactly what to do. But this approach, it kind of shows our hand. It reveals that we're coming to the text with a me-first agenda. And that leads us straight into what the book calls the self-centered trap. It's a specific way of reading, a certain kind of hermeneutic. Now, don't let that word scare you. It's just a fancy term for our method of interpretation. And here's what that looks like in practice. It's when our main goal, the whole reason we're reading, is to find something that applies only to me, right here, right now. It puts our personal situation, our problems, our desires, at the very center of God's word. Okay, and this slide is such a perfect example of this in action. The book gives this brilliant, kind of funny example. Let's say you're praying about which college to go to, and you happen to read a verse in Hosea that mentions a bear. A self-centered reading might make you go, aha, the Baylor Bears, that's my sign. But a faithful reading forces you to look at the context, which, by the way, is a really intense passage about God's judgment. That leads to a much deeper, truer takeaway about trusting God's guidance, not just looking for clues. So here's the bottom line. This me-focused approach doesn't just lead to some weird conclusions, it actually robs us. It cheats us out of the massive, beautiful, world-changing story of God's redemption because we're too busy trying to figure out which university to attend. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the fix? Well, thankfully, the book offers a really simple and super practical tool to help us out. It's called the Global Application Test. Here's the core idea. Personal application isn't bad. Not at all. But it must be grounded in a bigger universal truth. So any lesson you take away for yourself should also be a lesson that works for the entire global church. And this quote just nails it. This is the test. You ask yourself, could this takeaway be preached this Sunday in my church and also in a church in Nairobi, Kenya? If the answer is no, then your application is probably too narrow, too self-focused. What a great rule of thumb, right? It just instantly widens your perspective. All right, let's move on to the second major problem, which is actually pretty related to the first one. It's what the book calls familiarity poison. And this happens with the stories we think we know inside and out. Let's try a quick experiment. Think about the story of Noah and the Ark. I mean, everybody knows that one, right? What are the first lessons or themes that pop into your head? I'm willing to bet you're thinking of things like faithfulness, obedience, trusting God when things look impossible, right? And listen, those are all totally valid positive takeaways from the story. They're the parts we always talk about in Sunday school. But here's the thing about familiarity. It often causes us to stop reading right there. We forget that almost immediately after Noah gets off the boat, Genesis 9 tells us he plants a vineyard, gets drunk, and passes out. It's a messy, uncomfortable, very human part of the story that we tend to just gloss over. And when we do that, we miss a much fuller, more complex picture of the man and the narrative. So what's the cure for this familiarity poison? It's intentionally stripping away what we think we already know. It means we have to come to even the most well-known stories with fresh eyes, with a real curiosity, ready to discover something we've missed 100 times before. Now, I get it. After hearing all this, avoid self-centered readings, strip away familiarity, you might be feeling a little overwhelmed. It's natural to feel like this just got way more complicated, and there's actually a name for that feeling. It's called student's paralysis. It's that feeling that there's so much to learn that you don't even know where to start, so you just freeze. But I want you to reframe that. That feeling isn't a dead end. It's actually a great sign. It means you're on the verge of a breakthrough, leaving the shallow end of the pool and heading for the deep water. And here's the best news of all. You're not supposed to conquer it. This quote from the book says it perfectly. We will never exhaust the depths of God's word. So just let go of that pressure. The goal isn't mastery. It's a lifelong adventure of discovery. This isn't some heavy burden to carry. It's an invitation to a treasure hunt that literally never ends. So just think about that. If you can set aside that search for yourself for a little while, and if you can fight that poison of familiarity, you open yourself up to a lifetime of wonder. The only question left is, with those fresh eyes, what new, incredible truth is waiting in those pages for you to discover?